Travel along, Catholic pilgrims, for 1 year as we read through St. Faustina's diary. Join me, Amy Thomas, each day for a short reading out of the diary which brought us a deeper understanding of Christ's divine mercy. Hello, Catholic pilgrims. Welcome back to day 5 of our readings from St. Faustina's diary. I hope you all are enjoying this so far as much as I am. Like I said in the intro, I had been reading through St. Faustina's diary. I started it last year, January 2020, and got halfway through it, and then we moved and everything just kind of fell apart and I lost my focus. So I have restarted it, and I thought, if I have to show up every day for my followers on social media, that's going to keep me going. So I'm enjoying this and I'm learning just as much as you. Basically, this is me reading through it and just sharing whatever comes into my head. So today we're still in section 2. We'll be reading 16 through 19. Again, this little piece just kind of flows. So we'll get started. It was during the octave of Corpus Christi, June 25th, 1925. God filled my soul with the interior light of a deeper knowledge of Him as supreme goodness and supreme beauty. I came to know how very much God loves me. Eternal is His love for me. It was at Vespers, in simple words which flowed from the heart, I made to God a vow of perpetual chastity. From that moment, I felt a great intimacy with God, my spouse. From that moment, I set up a little cell in my heart where I always keep company with Jesus. At last, the time came when the door of the convent was opened to me. It was the 1st of August, 1925, in the evening, the vigil of the feast of Our Lady of the Angels. I felt immensely happy. It seemed to me that I had stepped into the life of paradise. A single prayer was bursting forth from my heart, one of thanksgiving. However, after 3 weeks, I became aware that there is so very little time here for prayer, and of many other things which spoke to my soul in favor of entering a religious community of a stricter observance. This thought took a firm hold of my soul, but the will of God was not in it. Still, the thought, or rather the temptation, was growing stronger and stronger to the point where I decided one day to announce my departure to Mother Superior and definitely to leave the convent. But God arranged the circumstances in such a way that I could not get to the Mother Superior Michael. I stepped into the little chapel before going to bed, and I asked Jesus for light in this matter. But I received nothing in my soul except a strange unrest which I could not understand. But in spite of everything, I made up my mind to approach Mother Superior the next morning right after Mass and tell her of my decision. I came to my cell. The sisters were already in bed. The lights were out. I entered the cell full of anguish and discontent. I did not know what to do with myself. I threw myself headlong on the ground and began to pray fervently that I might come to know the will of God. There is silence everywhere as in the tabernacle. All the sisters are resting like white hosts enclosed in Jesus' chalice. It is only from my cell that God can hear the moaning of a soul. I did not know that one was not allowed to pray in the cell after 9 without permission. After a while, a brightness filled my cell, and on the curtain I saw the very sorrowful face of Jesus. There were open wounds on his face, and large tears were falling on my bedspread. Not knowing what all this meant, I asked Jesus, "Jesus, who hurt you so?" And Jesus said to me, "It is you who will cause me this pain if you leave this convent. It is to this place that I called you and nowhere else, and I have prepared many graces for you." I begged pardon of Jesus and immediately changed my decision. Okay, so this is, again, a continuation. She's finally got herself into the convent, and she's so happy. She feels like she's entered paradise, a life of paradise. And then 3 weeks later, she's like, nope, I gotta go. And this little passage reminded me of something that happened in my own life. I'll tell you that story and then I'll relate it back to her. So In 2012, my husband was getting ready to deploy. We were living in Edwards Air Force Base in the Mojave Desert in California. And it was a March time frame, and Lent was just starting. And I had made this decision to really go full-fledged into Lent. And so one of the things I decided to do was every morning I was going to wake up really, really early. And on the base where we lived literally in the middle of nowhere. But there was this little mountain that you could climb, and you could see the sun rising over the eastern mountains. And I had this hugely pious idea. I would go there every morning. I would sit there and I would watch the sun rise and break over the mountains, and I would spend time in prayer with God. But this is literally right before we were gearing up for my husband to leave to go to deployment. And so, at home, we were packing, we were moving, me and my girls, we were going to be moving back to Kansas to stay with family. And I would stay up at this mountain for a while, and I would miss time in the morning with my husband. So he was kind of upset with me that we weren't, having morning time together and everything. And I was super offended. I was like, oh, here I am trying to be this pious woman, have a wonderful Lent, and you're asking me not to go pray. And he was like, Amy, no, he was like, I don't mind if you pray. It's like, I'm getting ready to leave and I want to maximize my time with you. And I was like, okay, fine. This is what I have to do. Oh, all these things pulling me away. So I stopped going up to the mountain, and I started, spending more time in the early morning with my husband. What is interesting is now looking back, at the time I was like, oh my gosh, Jesus is going to be so mad with me. I gave up this practice I had committed to do, and, now I'm being taken away from it and all this stuff. And looking back on it now, it was kind of a selfish thing for me to do. Not selfish in that I was giving time to Jesus, but that I had chosen something that would keep me away from my family in the morning times when we would, normally be spending some time together right before my husband deploys. And I'm sure in his eyes that looked, not too kind. And I look back now and I'm like, oh, after going through a 6-month deployment, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so thankful that I decided to spend those mornings with my husband. Because once he left, I was just a mess. And I was craving him being home, and I wanted time with him. The way I relate this back to her is, she says in here, 3 weeks after she enters the convent, she's, I'm doubting what I'm doing here, because I thought there'd be more time for prayer and all these other pious acts that I, had been in my soul that I really wanted to do, and I just can't find this here. So I've got to go. It's not what I thought it was going to be. I had all these special practices I wanted to do, and I can't do them here. And she's feeling all this unrest and kind of upset that she can't. So she wants to go tell the Mother Superior that I got to get out of here. This isn't working for me. And Jesus is like, wait a minute. This is where I asked you to be. You need to be here. It's okay. I've got things I want to show you here. From my story I was trying to be, not that that's bad. Not that what Sister Faustina wanted was bad in any way. It's always good to want to pray and want to have practices that help draw us to God. But she didn't even give it 3 weeks, barely. And she's already, this isn't what I envisioned. This must be the wrong place. Or she knew it wasn't God's will, because she even says it. I had all this angst inside, and I knew it wasn't the will of God for me to feel this way, but I did anyway. And I kind of wanted to go my own way and leave the convent so I could do more pious things. I relate that to how I was feeling, when my husband was like, no, just be with me here in this moment. I need you. I need your time right now, because we're getting ready to go into a period where we're not going to have each other. And so I think a lot of us can get caught up in this, we think either, especially during Lent or Advent or something like that, we think if I don't go hardcore Catholic, all the practices, prayers, and constantly pray 5 times a day, do the rosary, do all this stuff, well, this just isn't working for me. Or I'm like, if I can't do all that, then I'm just not going to do anything. Or at least that's not what Sister Faustina was struggling with, but that's what a lot of us think. If I can't go hardcore, then I might as well just not go at all. Or, I need to be this super pious, ultimately holy person 24/7. And if anything is distracting me from that, then I need to leave and find another place where I can be that way. And I think that we're almost denying our place in life or our role in life. I had made that decision at that Lent to really step away from my family when I was just getting ready to, my husband was getting ready to leave for a very long time. I made a decision to step away from him, which didn't quite make any sense because I was trying to be super, pious and all this stuff. But, my husband was like, wait, I need you here. And I think sometimes we forget our place in life. If you're a new parent and you can't pray at all hours of the day like, somebody who's single, or I can't go to adoration all the time because I got 5 little ones clinging to me and my life is just so busy. God understands the space that you're in. And that's not to say that we should just abandon everything and say, well, I'll wait until everything calms down. No, we just may need to shift our focus just a little bit. And that's what happened that Lent with me, is I had to shift my focus. I needed to give time to my husband right before he left. And so I found another practice that was more suitable to that place in my life. And I was blessed because of it in 2 ways, because I got to spend some time with my husband that was precious to me. And I found another practice that worked and was more flexible with what we were going through at that time. At each place in our life, at each new chapter, at each turn of the page, our prayer life, our religious life is going to look a little bit different. Now that my kids are getting older, my religious life looks way different than when my kids were really, really little. And that's okay. And, God will, if your heart and your desire is to follow the will of God in the time and the space that you're in, and allow Him into, whatever is going on in your life right then, He will bless that. He understands what each one of us is going through. And, He knows that life is hectic, that life is messy, that, life can get crazy. And we all can't be, a monk in a hermitage where, 24/7 we're on our knees praying in front of the tabernacle. He knows that. And then because we can't do that doesn't make us a bad Catholic or Christian. It just means our circumstances of our lives are different. So I just want to encourage you, find what practices work for you. Allow yourself to be flexible and to let God show you what He's wanting to show you in the time and the present moment that you're in. And, and don't get caught up on, trying to do all the things, because that's just really not possible. And God will bless your vocation and your calling if you just trust in the process that He wants to work through you. So that's it for today, Catholic Pilgrims. Until next time, live the faith boldly and travel well.